Hello and welcome viewers, I am Pia and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top stories this hour. After a successful first day of negotiations in Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh, Israel and Hamas representatives will sit with mediators for a second day of talks today. Meanwhile, the German foreign minister has stated that the ball is in Hamas's court and has demanded that the first phase of Trump's plan be implemented this week. US President Donald Trump has stated that he may invoke the Insurrection Act to legitimize his deployment of National Guard troops to major American cities. The US government shutdown continues for a seventh straight day as yet more bids to resolve the shutdown fail at the Senate. President Trump has stated that there will be layoffs if this is not resolved soon. Swedish activist Greta Thunberg has arrived in Greece and has slammed Western governments, stating that they have failed to do their part in helping the people of Gaza. US House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has stated that there is radio silence from the White House as the government shutdown continues. Memorials and vigils have been organized in Israel and across the world, marking 2 years since the deadly October 7th attack that kicked off hostilities between Hamas and Israel. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has landed in Washington, D.C. ahead of his scheduled talks with Donald Trump. The talks are expected to center on America's tariffs, which are hitting the Canadian economy hard. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has stated that his administration has foiled a major false flag attack on the American embassy in Caracas. He has also stated that the United States appreciated his initiative to inform them. All right, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. Indirect talks between Israel and Hamas in Egypt have been described as positive so far, with discussions resuming today in Sharm el-Sheikh. The talks aim to implement a US-led peace plan, focusing first on the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has stated that Hamas is agreeing to things that are very important in the ongoing indirect negotiations with Israel. Listen in to what Trump had to say.
Do you have any red lines in terms of Hamas disarming and whatnot? Are there
no, I have red lines. If certain things aren't met, we're not going to do it. But I think we're doing very well, and I think Hamas has been agreeing to things that are very important.
Meanwhile, Israel continues its offensive in Gaza, with hundreds of thousands now evacuated, while humanitarian access remains limited. At the same time, the Israeli military has stated that a projectile was fired into southern Israel, targeting the small settlement of Netiv Hasara. This projectile was fired from Gaza. Now, air raid sirens were activated, according to the Israeli Defense Forces, which added that the rocket was fired from northern Gaza. So far, no injuries have been reported. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossi Kupperwasser, Israeli intelligence and security expert, joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Up until now, the tone and tenor that has been adopted in Egypt has been described by sources as positive. On the ground, they are optimistic about the diplomacy that is taking place, the negotiations that are taking place with Egyptian mediators who are now speaking to both the Israeli negotiators as well as Hamas. Do you think that Trump's slated time period of the first phase being implemented by the end of this week is a realistic goal that he set?
It's definitely a goal that we would like to see being met. It's if it's realistic, definitely it's a little bit optimistic, but we have to be optimistic in order to make progress, because otherwise we are going to go back to fighting. And we prefer to find a diplomatic solution to that. And if the Hamas is, according to President Trump, accepting all kinds of important steps, then maybe there is a reason to be optimistic.
Indeed, and it's been 2 years since the terrorist attack on the 7th of October 2023 that claimed the lives of countless innocent civilians who were at the music festival, 370 who had lost their lives over there, and countless others, children and elderly in Israel, some who are also taken hostage and remain hostage till this date. Vigils are being held on the ground. Meanwhile, we've tracked reports of a projectile being fired from northern Gaza towards southern Israel. Could you share what's happening on the ground, provide our viewers with a little more clarity as to what is taking place?
Well, a lot of things have taken place since October 7th, 2023. In Gaza itself, we are in the midst of a wide-scale operation that is determined to remove Hamas from power through diplomatic means or through military means. And we have caused Hamas a very severe damage, and they lost many of their commanders and activists, and they're in a very difficult situation. That's why they are ready to do those concessions that are asked from them by President Trump. And they are under pressure from their own supporters that fear that if they don't do these steps, then Israel is going to mount a further military move and remove them from power by force. That's in Gaza. But in the meanwhile, we also took care of many of the enemies that showed solidarity with Hamas and tried to attack us as well, like the Hezbollah in Lebanon and all kinds of militias in Iraq, and of course the Houthis in Yemen, and the Iranians themselves that attacked us several times. So we weakened considerably the Iran-led axis of evil, as we call it here, and they are in a much worse shape than they were in the beginning of the war. In the beginning of the war, they thought that they have a chance to wipe Israel off the map. Now it seems that they are in a very bad shape, while Israel is gaining more and more power. I hope that all of these developments will mark the 7th of October in the memory of the Palestinians and of the Middle East as a big, big mistake, huge mistake done by those who believe that they can wipe Israel from the map. This is not going to happen, and their situation is going to be much worse. And I hope that by doing so, we shall open the door for progress towards moderation and normalization and hopefully peace in the long run between us and our neighbors.
You've spoken of the Houthis. We've recently seen a barrage of missiles being fired by the Houthis against Israel, and the escalation has taken place over the last couple of months. The Houthis claim that they're doing so in solidarity with Hamas in Gaza. So if a peace deal is chalked out and it gets implemented, do you think the Houthis will then stop targeting Israel, or will they continue doing so even after that?
Sincerely hope so. They claim that what they're doing is in solidarity with the Palestinians, so, and especially Hamas. So I hope that if Hamas reaches an agreement with Israel about the release of all the hostages and laying down their arms in Gaza, then the Houthis will follow suit and stop their attacks. That's reasonable to expect. Although nothing is reasonable when it comes to the Houthis. It's difficult to understand them.
All right, so I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking further updates. We're now learning that US President Donald Trump has commented on the negotiations that are taking place and the peace plan at large. He stated that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is positive on the deal. He's also said that Hamas has been agreeing to things which are very important in the plan. This development comes as reports suggest that Israeli authorities are pessimistic and that Hamas is also renegotiating a disarmament. Now, President Trump has appreciated that the deal has received a positive response from across the globe. Listen into what he had to say.
There's negotiations happening with your team in Egypt right now over your proposed peace plan. It was reported by Axios over the weekend that you had called with Prime Minister Netanyahu where you told him to stop being so negative and to take the win when it came to Hamas's response to that. Is that true? And
no, it's not true. He's been very positive. He's been very positive on the deal. Everybody is. I think every nation is. We have just about every nation working on this deal and trying to get it done. Something that you could say 3,000 years if you look at it in certain ways, or you could say centuries, but this is a deal that incredibly, everyone just came together. They all came together. No, Israel's been great. They've all been good, Caitlin.
And in the negotiations, do you have any red lines in terms of Hamas disarming and whatnot? Are there any places you're willing to negotiate?
If certain things aren't met, we're not going to do it. But I think we're doing very well, and I think Hamas has been agreeing to things that are very important.
We've just heard Donald Trump confirm that reports that have been circulating claiming that Trump has told Netanyahu to not be negative are false. Trump has meanwhile come out and stated that Netanyahu has been striking a positive tone as far as the peace plan is concerned. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossi Cooper-Wasser, Israeli intelligence and security expert. Clearly, the Americans now making it clear that it's important that this deal comes through. What do you make of the tone and the tenor that Donald Trump has adopted?
Well, this is President Trump. This is what we usually hear from him. He's always optimistic and he's giving marks to everybody. So, yes, I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu is really interested in moving forward with this deal. He has shown a lot of readiness to make concessions on behalf of Israel in order to reach a deal that would release all the hostages at one move. And for that, we are ready to release from jail many terrorists that were involved in murdering Israelis, many Israelis, just in order to release the hostages. But at the same time, we expect the Hamas to show readiness to not only release the hostages, but also to lay down their arms, and in order to make the way, to pave the road to a better future for Israelis and Gazans as well. That's what the deal is all about. We are ready to make our concessions in order to make it happen. And let's see if Hamas is really, as President Trump, ready to make all kinds of important moves in this direction. If this is the case, we are going to see a better future for everybody.
Speaking of Hamas, they've not yet made it clear whether they would disarm or not. In fact, they've not said anything about the proposed International Board of Peace, which would oversee post-war reconstruction of Gaza as well. However, they have supported the creation of a future technocratic Palestinian leadership. Do you then think that their silence on Trump's proposed Board of Peace and disarmament demands could emerge as a sticking point in the negotiations down the line?
Definitely, there are so many details that have to be worked out down the line, and some of the principles that were in the Trump plan that have to be translated into reality through discussion about the details are not agreed upon by Hamas too. They agreed only to 2 elements out of 20 elements that comprise the Trump plan. The rest they didn't say anything against, but they didn't say that they approve, and which means that they do not approve, because those that they did approve, they said we approve this and this. And so we have so many open questions. They, for example, in this respect, they accepted the idea of a technocrat government that would rule Gaza once the plan comes into effect. But they are not ready to give up all their arms. So this means that these technocrats are going to be operating under the threat of Hamas. This makes no sense. And they are not ready to accept the international security or the international stabilization force, the ISF, made of foreign fighters coming from Arab and Muslim countries. They have not accepted that. As a matter of fact, some of them have spoken against it, not in the official reaction, but in all kinds of press interviews, and this creates concern that they are going to be against it. They have not spoken about the Board of Peace, not positively and not negatively, which means that they are not in favor of that. They want to see themselves involved in the future, in deciding the future of the Palestinians in Gaza and beyond, which President Trump understands that you cannot let people who were involved or actually were responsible directly for the atrocities of October 7th, you cannot let them run a state or any entity. So there are still many, many open questions that are going to be discussed down the road. But the most important thing, and this is a very important part of the logic of the plan, is that the most important and most urgent thing is to release the hostages. And the discussions right now in Sharm el-Sheikh are about the terms under which the hostages are going to be released. And let's hope that this first stage is going to be implemented, and then we shall move to discussing the rest of the issues in the plan.
All right, sir, I request you to stay on with us. We're tracking some further crucial updates. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a telephonic conversation to discuss developments in the Middle East. They spoke about US President Donald Trump's plan to end the conflict in Gaza and the ongoing efforts to secure the release of hostages. Both leaders also expressed interest in negotiated solutions regarding the Iranian nuclear program. The call also covered ways to promote further stability in Syria amid regional tensions. Kremlin has stressed that the importance of diplomacy in addressing these critical issues is, of course, the need of the hour. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossi Koperwasser. One point of focus in this discussion was Iran's nuclear program. Now, we've learned recently that the Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi, has in fact stated that the Cairo agreement that was inked earlier is invalid, considering the snapback mechanism that has reinstated sanctions against Iran. Where do you think then, and what mechanism and what framework would now be followed for IAEA monitoring of Iran's nuclear sites?
Well, first of all, I think really that the talk between the Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Putin dealt with Iran, and because we are concerned of the fact that the Russians say that they are not going to abide by the sanctions put forward by following the snapback of the UN sanctions that was initiated by the UK, Germany, and France. And this, the Russians should abide by these sanctions, but they say they're not going to abide by them. So I guess Prime Minister Netanyahu was trying to convince President Putin to abide by the sanctions. By not abiding the sanctions, the Iranians are expecting the Russians to supply them with advanced weapons, and including aircraft, advanced military aircraft, and advanced anti-air and anti-missiles systems. This is not going to be allowed, or this is not allowed under the current sanctions put forward by the international community. So this is one source of concern. The other is, I guess, that the Iranians refused to allow the IAEA to inspect nuclear sites in Iran. And I think this should be a message to the Iranians by the Russians as well, not only by the West, that they should abide by their commitments to allow this inspection to go on. Because if this is not going to be the case, then who knows what they're going to do with the highly enriched uranium they have. And that's why the building of construction of new centrifuges, all kinds of activities that have to be monitored by the international community. So I think that Russia can help with that too. But unfortunately, I don't think that this far the Russians have shown any readiness to do that. And I think another topic in this discussion was also an attempt by Prime Minister Netanyahu to convince President Putin to approach the Hamas too, and convince them to show more flexibility in the talks.
All right, sir, with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time and sharing your perspective with us on NewsX World. Shifting focus to more news coming in. The European Commission is preparing to propose a significant 50% tariff on steel imports worldwide, which is set above a quota based on 2013 levels. This move, aimed at protecting the EU's steel industry from cheap competition, particularly from China, is expected to mirror similar measures previously taken by the United States. The new proposal would not only double existing tariffs, but also drastically reduce the volume of steel imports allowed before the tariffs are imposed. Now, the European Union is acting swiftly in a bid to stabilize its steel sector, which has been facing increasing pressure from the global market. All right, viewers, shifting focus to reports coming in from Pakistan. A major attack has taken place on the Jafar Express in Sultankot, located between Shikarpur and Jacobabad. The Balochistan Republican Guards have claimed responsibility for the attack, which was carried out using a remote-controlled IED. The explosion hit the train, causing it to derail and injured several passengers in the process. However, no casualties have been reported yet so far. Now, according to local reports, several coaches of the train were derailed and rescue teams and security forces have reached the spot and rescue operations are underway. You can clearly see those visuals on your screens. Ambulances have also been dispatched on the spot. People are being taken to hospitals as we speak. Now, this attack comes after the same train was targeted earlier in March this year by the Balochistan Liberation Army, which had hijacked it. Prior to that, as well, the train had been targeted in 2016. The frequent attacks on this train are attributed to the fact that it carries Pakistani forces from Quetta, the capital of Balochistan, and Punjab. Meanwhile, several personnel were on board during this attack as well. Balochistan has long experienced violence due to the ongoing secessionist movement in the province. With us on the broadcast is Fakhar Yousafzai, a Pakistani journalist joining us from Karachi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. We are getting information, but it's limited at the moment. What are you picking up from the ground as per the details of this particular attack and the immediate aftermath regarding the rescue operations?
Thank you very much and good afternoon to everyone. Actually, it's happening repeatedly. I think so. Jafar Express is not the first attack which occurred near Shikarpur, which is the Sindh constituency. And this is the only train in Pakistan which cover the 4 provinces of Pakistan: Balochistan, Punjab, Sindh, and the ending point of this train is from Quetta to Peshawar. Which is the capital of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. 6 people injured and the rescue operation is going on over there from the Sindh government and the Lalkana administration, which is near to this destination. As well as the blast is concerned, I think so from last couple of weeks, we have seen so many times the Bolan Mail Express, which is running between Karachi and Quetta, and the Jafar Express, which is running between Peshawar and Quetta. The Pakistan Railways suspended this train so many times from last couple of weeks. But I think so this is the security collapse, I think so, I will say that. And as well as the blast is concerned, or the different attacks in the different area attacks is concerned, but this is occurred. This attack is occurred in Sindh, not in Balochistan, which is I think so. The BLA have a very strong hold in Balochistan. The other organization as well. Especially we have seen the last week attack in Quetta by the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan on the Frontier Constabulary headquarters. Therefore, it's mean the route of this train, which is started from Quetta and passed so many areas of Balochistan and then entered to the Sindh and then Punjab. I don't know how it is going on, especially in Sindh area, or if sometime we have seen this type of attacks or something else in Punjab. I think so it's very alarming for the security institution and as well as for the federal government, for the provincial government of Balochistan and Sindh. They should investigate this attack. Is it by the BLA, BLF, or the Sindhu Desh organization is also operating these type of attacks in the different area of Sindh.
Indeed, as you've mentioned, the last time around the Jafar Express was targeted when the hijacking had taken place earlier. It was at Bolan Pass in Balochistan, but this time around the attack has taken place in Sultankot in Sindh. We do know now that the Balochistan Republican Guards have come out and claimed responsibility. I wanted to understand, how is the Pakistani government now tackling the situation that has now become volatile with these trains being increasingly targeted? What security measures are in place?
Yeah, of course, the government is trying for the provide the security, but I think so it is not possible because this train is start their journey from Quetta and the end point is Peshawar, almost 15, 16 or 1700 kilometer. It's a long trek, I think so, but especially in the Balochistan area, which is, I think so, I will say that this is insecure. The government is trying providing the different type of security. And when the Jafar Express attacked last time and the hijacked by the BLA for almost 72 hours, then the government decided that we will use the drone for the air surveillance and we will protect all the railway track which start from Quetta and especially in the Bolan area. But I don't know. After that, we have seen not that big attack on the Jafar Express in those area, but we have seen the small IED blast on the railway tracks, and so many times the Jafar Express suspended, as well as the small attack is going on in the Balochistan area. Of course, this is the need of the strong security for this trend, but what is the main reason behind these attacks? Of course, the BLA or BLF are operating in the Balochistan area. If we will tackle them, of course, these type of attacks or other attacks might be possible. We can cope up with that. Otherwise, if we will think about it, that we will protect this railway track, which is, I think, so not easy. Not easy. But the thing, government should respond, government should take some concrete steps against the BLA. If they want to talk, they should talk to them. If they want to, they need operation, military operation, which is going on from so many years, from last so many years in the different area of Balochistan. But the situation is not coming under control. I think so it's a very alarming and concerning point for everyone who's living in Balochistan or some other part of Pakistan.
As you pointed out, we've seen repeated attacks against the Jafar Express, and in fact, the BLA is known for using guerrilla tactics. We'd seen it the last time around. They had released a series of videos showcasing how they hijacked the train and how exactly they took the Pakistani armed forces hostage as well. They also killed several. This clearly points towards a calibrated, well-planned approach to what is then Pakistan's strategy for tackling this.
Yeah, of course, we have seen so many videos, as you mentioned, which is released by the BLA or by the other organization which is operating in Balochistan. They are doing their attack with well planned. I will say that. They have attacked on the Jafar Express last time. That was, of course, without a planning. Nobody can do that. They have attacked in the different military installations in Balochistan. Of course, they have very strong plan for that. But the intelligence, I think so. I will say that the intelligence failure is coming up repeatedly. We have seen so many times in the different area of Balochistan, not only in the Bolan area, but in the different. We have seen that in Gwadar. We have seen that in Turbat, Panjgur, Mastung, in Quetta. We have seen in Job. These are the main districts of Balochistan. We have seen so many big attacks by the BLA, as well as now the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is also operating in some part, the Pashtun belt of the Balochistan. They are attacking in Job, they are attacking in Quetta, they are attacking in some area of Chaman, which is sharing the border with Afghanistan. I think so we need some good planning. The political will needed for that. I think so the government which is running the Balochistan, which is led by the Pakistan People's Party, I think so they're not capable to take a strong decision, or they don't have a capability to talk with the different area. Even they didn't talk with Marang Baloch. I think she's leading a political movement. But unfortunately, the Balochistan government, especially the Chief Minister of Balochistan, Sarfaraz Bukti, didn't take her on board. And she is behind the bar from last 5 or 6 months.
Yes.
I think so. The government of Pakistan, I mean to say, the government of Pakistan should take some good step and realistic steps. Not only the use of power, we are using the power from last so many decades. If we talk about the Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti Sahab assassination in 2005, after that the situation is of course out of control. But that was in the southern part of the Balochistan, where is Gawadar situated, Pasni, Jivni, Turbat, in this area, in the Kech district. But right now, it's going on in the other part of the Balochistan, which is, I think so, not good for Balochistan, as well as very alarming and very threatening for the security system of Pakistan.
All right, with that, I would like to thank you, Mr. Yusufzai, for taking out time and sharing your perspective with us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus to what's happening in Madagascar. Madagascar's President, André Rajoelina, has appointed Army General Rufin Fortunate-Zafimbo as the Prime Minister in a bid to ease escalating protests against his leadership. Listen in to what he had to say.
Koa ampaindreny noa andraisako ny fanapa-kevitra fa iandraikitra ny Prime Ministre lehibe ny gouvernemanta manomboka amin'ny masinandro androany ny Général de Division Zafisambo Rufin Fortunat Dimso.
The demonstrations sparked by power and water shortages have been ongoing since the 25th of September, with thousands of youth-led protests calling for Rajoelina's resignation. Security forces have used tear gas to disperse crowds in the capital, injuring at least one protester. Now, despite the appointment of Zafisambo, the Gen Z-led movement remains firm in its demand, issuing a 48-hour ultimatum for Rajoelina to step down. Protesters say that as long as Rajoelina remains in power, they will continue to fight. The protests have turned violent, with reports of deaths and injuries, including the use of live ammunition by security forces. With that, viewers, it's a wrap on this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.